Hello and welcome to us revisiting the Rabiah Scale. This is the scale on which we say that a plane will be returned to, or at least the head designer of Wizards does this sometimes. The last time he really did it was in 2018, so we are going to revisit today and see whether it has changed. So to explain it, in the top left here you see what scale number they got. So 1 means that they will almost for sure return to the plane. And they did in 2022 with Dominaria, which got a 1. Where they said Dominaria is huge and it has always been a smash hit that ensured going back to. So popularity is a really important part of us returning to a plane. There's a lot of story, which is also important. It's popular again, and it's a free world. He feels like we must return here. And I do feel like this hasn't changed. Dominaria is still really big. It has a lot of characters that come from there and that are important. Innistrad, the same. I'm going by this from the numbers. So we will see some certainties here. Innistrad was returned to already in 2021. So 3 years after he said we probably would return there. He probably knew about it a little bit too, at least with some of the little bit older ones. He just said it's a loved world. It has easy mechanics with like the tribes, and it is like the horror theme that really fits. And I feel like this skill hasn't changed a lot either. But here comes one that has changed, I feel like. Ravnica. So it got a 1, and we did return in 2019, but the last set we got was War of the Spark. So what he said initially was, there's lots of story, there's even more popularity. And I feel like the popularity has weakened a little bit after this set. He says, we must return at some point, which I did. He feels like the skill is unchanged, as it's still popular. Still, it has the strong identity around the guilds, which is true, and we all know how they work while there's a bunch of stories to write about the guilds, so those are the positive things. But I personally feel right now like the skill might be hurt a little bit by War of the Spark and how negative people have been, so I would right now put it at like a 3 or a 4, which means that it has some challenges, but we probably will return there still. But they will have to work on it a little bit, and they will have to do some public work, or maybe they will have to wait a little bit to let the negativity go down a little bit. Then we have Eldraine, which is new, so he of course didn't say anything about it, but of course this is a 1. We will return here, that's for sure, it's this year. So then we have the 2s. Zendikar, for example, which also returned in 2020, where he said it might be hard to make the set too much like the original Zendikar, so that all the way to the first, before Eldrazi were a thing. But the Eldrazi have been defeated, so that makes an interesting plot point. That's true, so they did that. And they did return, and I feel like they took that point exactly. Now though, when they would return, I feel like it would be around Nissa and Nahiri again, which the previous one already was. The only difference being that Nahiri is now a planeswalker hunter that doesn't want to go away. So I feel like we will return for Nahiri, and maybe she will lure a lot of planeswalkers there, but that just sounds like War of the Spark too, to be honest. Then we have Arcavios, Strixhaven. Was the set. Of course, it didn't exist at the time either, so I am giving it a 2. Because I feel like there is some challenge in the fact that the world has been changed a lot after the invasions, so they will have to rebuild it a little bit. Many teachers have been changed, and Wintorius has become a planeswalker, but that is exactly also why we probably must return. Plus there's a whole history that we haven't touched upon. And there's the thing of the 2 worlds being smushed together to create the two color pairs, which I think is really interesting, but they haven't really explained too well. So I feel like we must return, and there's a lot to explore there. Theros is our first 3. We have returned there already though in 2020, so it was actually, I guess, a 1. It has a bunch of story, and players want to see the stories addressed, is what they said. Literally addressed. I feel like they addressed the stories now. And after the Fraction invasion, yes, I am interested in how they will recover, but I feel like the stories have been ended in many ways, and they haven't done so in a really satisfactory manner. After the last Pharaoh set, which didn't have a story, I feel like people just want to give up on Theros as a world, or they will have to do a lot to make us feel positively about it. So I would put this down to a 5 or 6. I don't think it's a certainty that we will return to Pharaohs anymore. Kaldheim, I would give a 3 myself, because I feel like the set was really popular, and there are a lot of cool monsters. The mini planes were really interesting, and I feel like there are many more stories to tell about that, like the gold hordes that they could return to. We have like the realms that have been changed. We have the elves who are trying to become gods and stuff like that. I feel like the shapeshifters were really interesting. So there's a lot of story to go about here, and they could like make whole sets out of every one of these planes, I feel like. Capenna, also according to me, is a 3. It was decently popular, but there was a lot of cutback around Wizards as a company at that point. So I feel like they would need a little bit of PR for this, which is why it's not a 2 or a 1. But I feel like the world, it was really popular, and I feel like the families do have a lot of chance as well as a 3-colored set. It has changed a lot after Phyrexia as well, but I feel like that just makes this world more interesting, as there are now the angels that have returned, and we must see how the city will change because of it. Then we have Ixalan, and we of course already know that it will be a 1 as well, but they put it in 4. So they said that it was a 4 because the mechanics weren't implemented optimally. And the problem here is that they would, when they return, they would have to use dinosaurs again, they would have to use vampires again, they would have to use merfolk again, and some of these were in colors that they shouldn't have been in, so they will have to stretch the design a little bit if they are to return. Or they could change the story a bunch as well. So there's, for example, there are more continents on Ixalan, so they have some choices, I feel like. Because yeah, I feel like it will be interesting. It has been planned, so it is a 1, actually. So I really want to see what their solution is. I think it could be a new continent, but it could also be that they have changed the tribes after the invasion or something. Then we have Tarkir, which they gave a 4 as well. They said it was popular enough. But the only problem is that the Khans set was more popular than the Dragons set. So it might be hard to return, as now the Dragons have won and the world has been irrevocably changed. I do feel like after March of the Machines, they have sort of made friends with each other. Because we literally saw Zergo riding Ojutai, and I think they did that on purpose in order for us to be able to return to Tarkir and have a reason for the Khans to have a larger role in the set again, because popularity is the main driving force of us returning to Plains. Here we have my queen from Alara. They just said a 5 because it has a strong mechanical identity, but the shards were too detached from each other, so it feels like everyone should have their own set almost. So it could be that they return to parts of those sets, but not to the whole world, because it will be really hard to design a world where every one of those 3-colored families or well, shards get their own place. So it actually is a little bit too defined, which makes it different from Capenna, I feel like. I also might add that maybe they will change the whole of Capenna and steer away from the families or something, or maybe change them color-wise. or make the colors less present, maybe. But I feel like that's the same problem with Capenna in the basics of it as we have with Alara. So I feel like we could return, and there might be a little bit of a different reason here. We have Amonkhet, also a 5, which I was really surprised by. They said it was a likable world with strong mechanics, but not everyone liked it, so that's one thing. And they said that it got blown up. I don't feel like it really did. They are rebuilding, right? So with Hazoret still present, I feel like they could rebuild the world, but it will be really different. But okay, I mean, they chose to blow it up, but okay, fine. We have Kaladesh, which is also a 5. They said it has a strong identity and it has Chandra. So sometimes they just reason that the big planeswalker is from there or has big ties to that, so we must return there. Like Vryn and Jace, which we'll see later. But it has mechanical and creative challenges. I felt like this world is really well defined and it just makes it very easy. It just has to have a lot of artifacts, I guess. But the problem was that energy was a really strong mechanic and that was really well tied to the world. So they need to do something with the Aether. And Mark felt like it had to be energy. I feel like they could do something else with the Aether as well, but okay. The problem is that energy would be too strong, and that's why we can't return yet. So he doubts whether we will return, which is what the 5 means. Salfir, he actually put this down in 2023, this year. He said after March of the Machine and Tuck or Salfir becoming a plane, we might return there. That's what he said. It does need some world building though. I kind of agree. It needs a lot of world building, but there are a lot of planeswalkers there. So I feel like we will return if we are going by that. Now we come into some lesser known planes. So Muruganda, Mark just said this year that he assumes that they'll visit it. Okay. Interesting. So the 5 still means we will probably go there, I guess, but need some work. Like, this is a whole world that needs to be fleshed out. Then, interestingly to me, we have Fiora. I felt like it was really popular. But here they said it's challenging because its mechanical identity is so strongly set by conspiracy. It wouldn't be able to become a standard set. So it could be Commander, but won't be a standard set because it's so much about multiplayer. I guess we would return there then, but it just wouldn't be in standard. Then we have Regatha. Don't know why he pointed those out, but not a well fleshed out plane, has some knowledge, so could be a thing. Chandra went there, for example. Okay. Then I find this one interesting because this is Vryn. I feel like this is a very high number for Vryn, but okay. But it gets scored so high because it's Jace's home. So larger chance that we will return there. Okay. Do remember that they made this in 2018, so this has nothing to do with March of the Machines actually. The problem is that it isn't built yet. We did have some like pointers in March of the Machines, of course. So I feel like we are setting up for it actually. Then we have Chandelard, which should be a 7, by the way. Sorry. It was well liked enough by those who know it, but it wasn't popular. That combined with the fact that it has no identity and mechanics yet, makes it a hard world to get to. So, as it has no fans, probably we will not go there. Then we have Lorwyn, which does have some fans, but he says a lot of people found the identity of the set too soft. So he feels like it isn't really pronounced enough. The set also had some design flaws as the creature types in Lorwyn didn't work well together, and the tribal in Shadowmoor was too dense, whatever that means, which took away from the hybrid color designs. Okay, so they will have to change a lot. And the only problem being here that the previous designs were a bit bad, but I feel like people don't remember that. So a little bit like Kamigawa, I feel like. But okay, and we haven't even gotten to Kamigawa, it's lower on the list. Now we have Ikoria, which is according to me at 7 as well. And I think it is a little bit of a hard one to return to, like Lorwyn. The set this plane was from met a lot of negativity around the story. It was the first one that our dumb planeswalker friend was from. But I feel like there's a strong potential for the mechanics of the set. And I think mostly it is interesting that all of these creatures will be changing. So they can bring them back, but change them because they're evolving all the time. So I feel like it has a lot of potential. But it will be really hard to change it and make people positive about this one. Then he put Kamigawa at 8, while we returned in 2022, which he didn't know, I assume. So the first visit, according to him, was a problem because it was really unpopular. I didn't know this, to be honest. I felt like it was. So it would be hard to return. The world had to change a lot, which they did, and was correctly predicted by Mark. The problem was with the mechanics. The first one resolved around the Kami so much, and they wouldn't be a fit for the story anymore, is what he said. So I think he was very right in that, because they did make a set with more artifacts and partly the spirits and the enchantments. So I feel like the new version was predicted very well, and this also means that even though your favorite plane might be in some of these higher numbers, you might return there, like with Kamigawa. Then we have Phyrexia, which this year he put at the 9 because it blew up. So yeah, basically. Yeah, so the only thing is that it was visited a lot, of course, but yeah, it's gone. Then we have Mercadia. He just said no identity, plus it's unpopular. We have Wrath return as the retelling of the Weatherlight saga. There's no other way to return in the current story, but might be an option. Ogrotha was unpopular and fights too much with Innistrad, so we probably won't return there. And then there's Rabiah, which is the name of the skill, so it is a 10. We will not return there. And that was it. Of course, a preparation for what the planes or your favorite planes tell about you. And thank you for watching.